We are live.
We're live. Hey guys, thank you so much for coming. My name is Evan. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and physical therapist, and some of you know me already. Raise your hand if you know me. Raise your hand if you ever, thank you, Nick, heard me present before. Okay, so just a few people. So today's gonna be fun. I typically like to enter any of my talks or presentations in a very casual fashion. I love to make it interactive. My goal is for everybody in this room to leave here as a biologist.
Oh, okay.
Okay? It's very ambitious. So I'm going to create an environment for all of us to learn collectively. Because I'm going to be learning from you as much as you're going to learn from me. And my ultimate goal at the end of this is, if anybody's in pain, I'd love to be able to treat you. So you can see how quickly pain can leave. Now, like your example, right? It didn't last very long, right? You felt better for a period of time. With any kind of chronic pain, so when we think about pain, we're going to think about chronic versus acute pain. So anything that's chronic, we've had the symptoms for about 2 to 4 weeks or longer. Chronic pain actually rewires the brain in a very negative way. All right. So when I'm talking about chronic pain, and most of us in this room, you've had pain probably longer than 2 to 4 weeks, right? So what happens with chronic pain, we're going to treat chronic pain completely different than acute pain. Chronic pain, it'll cause what's called cortical smudging. So if I have my brain over here, my left brain controls the right side of my body. So if I, for example, twist my ankle on my left foot, on my right foot rather, and I injured it and it didn't heal appropriately, over time, my left side of my brain is going to change a little bit.
Oh.
And that's called smudging. So you see how you see my fingers pretty clearly in through here? Right? Smudging looks like this. You can't really see my fingers very clearly. And there's a neurological phenomenon called Pflueger's laws. And what's fascinating is this. Pflueger's laws dictate that wherever you have pain, there's only so much threshold of pain you can actually have before the symptoms move someplace else. So like for example, when I was 11 years old, I fractured my left ankle. Fast forward, when I was 13 years old, I hurt my left side low back. Fast forward, I hurt my left shoulder. Fast forward, I hurt my left neck. So my whole entire left side of my body hurts, right? And because of this Pflueger's laws phenomenon, there's only a certain amount of area or neurological input to a specific area that the body could take on. Like for example, if I have a cup of water and I pour water into the cup, what's going to happen to the water in the cup eventually? It's going to spill over. So for all of you that have had pain on one part of the body, and then you're like, you know what? For some reason now I'm getting pain here, I'm getting pain here, I'm getting pain here. That's how the body protects you. How crazy is that? All right, so there's a specific neurological phenomenon that occurs. So now back to the brain. We have multiple brains, believe it or not, inside our bodies. So we have a head brain, we got a heart brain, and then we have our digestive brain. Okay? I'm going to start with the head brain, because most people think about the head brain being most common, right? But inside the head brain itself, we actually have 3 brains inside our head brain. What? 3 brains? We have something called the reptilian brain. Okay? The reptilian brain, who's ever seen a baby before? And what's the function of a baby? Like, what do? They pee, they poop, they vomit, they eat, and they sleep, right? Those are all what's called primitive reflexes. And those primitive reflexes are developed at a certain age in gestation, right? So they progress as we get older. And then we hit a certain threshold, and then we stop progressing those neurological infantile reflexes. All right? And so this reptilian brain is where all those reflexes that we actually were using as babies, where we suck the thumb, we turn the head when we hear something, we crawl, we transition from crawling to half kneeling to standing, right? But before that, all we do is lie on our back and kick, maybe scream, right? So these primitive reflexes are extremely important for our survival. Because if we didn't have those primitive reflexes, we want to be able to build abdominal core, We want to be able to build strength in our shoulders, right? Because the infant's head is so much bigger in relation to the whole entire body. So think about that. If we have such a big head and such a small body in relation to that, what has to get stronger first?
Yeah.
The neck muscles, the deep core muscles, the deep muscles of the body, right? Not the little finger muscles and the arm muscles. We're talking about like the muscles that are closest to the midline of the body. Now, the reptilian brain is very important as well for primitive life. So the reptilian brain, the responsibility of it is to eat, procreate, and move. That's it. It's for survival purposes only, the reptilian brain. And if I turn around, this part of my head is actually considered the reptilian brain. That reptilian brain sends signals to other parts of the body. So all the cranial nerves. Who's ever heard of cranial nerves? So our ability to see, hear, taste, smell, etc. actually start here. So the reptilian brain is extremely important in life. If the reptilian brain gets all messed up, we're dead. Okay? We could lose memory, like we get a stroke in through here, and we could survive. If we have a stroke back through here, we're goners. Okay? It's extremely important for us to know this. Now I'm going to tie everything together as I continue this talk. So we have the reptilian brain, responsible for anything that's primitive. So all the infantile or toddler reflexes that we need to have is made or is from the reptilian brain. Okay, so that's the first brain we have up top. Then we have something called the midbrain. Now the midbrain is really exciting because who's ever cried before? And who's ever laughed before? Who's laughing right now? So all the emotions are actually made in the midbrain. So in fact, any memory you could ever have, who remembers where they were on 9/11? See, everybody's hand went up very, very quickly. Do you remember what you were wearing? Some people do. What were you wearing yesterday? Yeah, exactly, right? So our memories are actually made by an emotional attachment. So a death of a loved one will be stored in our memory Rolodex because there's an emotional attachment to it. When we married or fell in love for the first time, right? Or married for the first time, the second, but it's all made in the emotional centers of the body, the midbrain. The midbrain is also known as the limbic system, or the emotional system of the body. So pretty cool, huh? So we have a reptilian brain, we have our limbic brain, which all our emotions are stored in there. But then we have something called the forebrain. This is what sets us apart from other animals. We have the ability to think logically. We can actually sit up front. You guys can be entertained by every word that's coming out of my mouth because of the neocortex or the frontal lobe, right? So the forebrain, this brain, the new brain it's called, allows us to interact with other people. Allows us to fall in love and connect. All right? Now, there's an interesting piece of the brain, the frontal brain, that communicates with the reptilian brain. All right? Now, this is all going to make sense in a couple minutes. So there's a constant communication from the forebrain to the rear brain. All right? So who's ever been into, who's ever cut you off and you curse at them? All right? Everybody in this room, right? So some of you didn't really try. So under a stress response, guess where the blood flow goes? Do you think it goes to the frontal lobe, the frontal part of the brain where you're very logically thinking? Or do you think it goes to our reptilian brain where we're like, F you! I'm gonna eat your face! Right? The blood flow actually gets shunted from our thinking brain to our emotional brains. Right? It's very important for you to understand that because under a stress response, do we think more logically? No. Okay? Under a stress response, are we digesting foods as appropriately as we should? No. Because blood flow is leaving certain parts of the brain. Now, say you have chronic pain. And under a stress response, because you have pain, right? Do you think blood flow is actually leaving the cognitive thought areas of the brain? Yes, blood flow is leaving there, it's going to the reptilian brain. So not only are you getting dumber because you have pain, but these pain stores are being ingrained into your nervous system. We call it motor engramming or motor programming. And unfortunately, it sucks and it gets stuck there until we create a process to be able to get it out. Okay? So there's one word that, actually there's one type of conditioning, I should say, that actually reprograms the brain when it comes to movement science. And that one word is called proprioception. So what the heck is proprioception? All right, do me a favor. Close your eyes. Raise your right hand up. Keep your eyes closed. Do you guys know that your right hand is up? Keep your eyes closed. Shake your head if you know your right hand is up. All right. Now open your eyes and bring your hands down. So how do you know your right hand was up? Through proprioception. That's how simple it is. So we have a saying around here. Your health is a direct adaptation to your lifestyle choices. So if we sit for long periods of time, it's going to cause poor biomechanics of the spine, right? If you're into an accident, it's going to cause trauma to an area that's going to cause scar tissue that if it's not treated appropriately through proprioception, which I'm going to go into deeper later, if it's not taken care of early on, like my ankle when I broke my ankle, I didn't treat it appropriately initially when I fractured it. So then later on, I started getting pain in other sites. Who could regulate? Who could relate to that, right? You get pain one area, and then over time you get pain in another area, right? So through proprioception, so how do we stimulate proprioception? This is really cool. Well, exercise is one way, right? So really high quality movement. So getting a high quality, amazing physical therapist like we have at Kinetic, right? Like Dr. Greg. And chiropractic is another way to increase proprioception. Massage is another way to increase proprioception. So these are things that actually excite the brain, okay? And acupuncture. And I believe acupuncture is the fastest and most effective way to increase proprioception. I don't believe in the classical Chinese medical approach to acupuncture where they think that qi, who's ever heard of qi? Okay, qi is imaginary. It's mythology. It does not exist. When they were talking about qi, they were talking about oxygen. All right, so if we have decreased circulation to an area, do you think you're going to have more pain or less pain? More pain, right? So when I cupped you the other day, right, all we did is increase blood flow. That's all I did. That's it. By increasing circulation, we actually decrease symptoms. Now, why would you feel better and then the pain come back? Who's been treated by me where you felt great when you left, and then within either that day or the next day or the next day, the pain came back, right? Almost everybody. That's because chronic pain is totally different than acute pain. If you, Brent got hurt, and I treated his, I think it was your hip and back,
Yeah.
and he got hurt on a Monday. He came to see me on a Wednesday. 1 or 2 visits, his pain was gone. Because we treated it right when he hurt himself. Right? If we don't treat an area that's injured right away, it's very difficult to get rid of it. And it's going to take a lot more treatments to help. Okay, does that make sense? Because what we're doing is we're retraining the brain. Through exercise, we retrain the brain. Through massage, we do massage therapy here too. Through chiropractic. If you have a chiropractor, keep using them. Electrical stimulation is one way as well, like e-stim devices are one way to mitigate pain. Needling, I think, is the most effective simply because I'm breaking the skin. Anytime I puncture the skin, I'm lighting up the brain centers. And if I puncture the skin aggressively, I light up the brain centers even more. Right? Greg, Dr. Greg, you've been treated by me, and some days it felt like excruciating pain, right? And then other days you're like, this is nothing. Right? Patty cans, you too, right? But it's because of the nervous system. It's all about the nervous system. It's not that my treatment has changed. It's just that you're a little bit more in a heightened state. And what's interesting is this. As people actually start getting better, with acupuncture now I'm talking about, as people start getting better and the nervous system starts getting better, do you think the needles hurt less or more?
Less.
More. Yeah, because initially when you're injured and you're hurt, you're numb.
Right.
Like the nerves are not woken up. So the more sensitive you are to the needles, the more the nervous system's like, I'm ready to work, man. Let's get ready. You know, like when Greg was in pain, he was in a very heightened state of pain. I needled him, actually made it worse temporarily, but then the nervous system relaxed. So let's talk about the mechanism by which acupuncture works, because I want to talk about mythology, and then we'll talk about other things too, and then whatever else anybody wants to talk about today. All right, I brought some gadgets up front. I want to show you how to actually treat yourself at home so that you can heal thyself. Become your own doctor. You don't freaking need me. Okay? I love you. I love the business, but I'd rather you be healthy. All right? So, acupuncture. There's no meridian system either. That's also mythology. So, we have Qi, which is mythology, and who's ever heard of meridians? Okay, meridians are this pathway, this imaginary pathway that actually runs throughout the whole entire body, that this imaginary energy or Qi is supposed to go through. It's not found in an MRI, it's not found in an autopsy, you can't find it, right? That's because in about 1948, there was a French dude that mistranslated the old classical Chinese text. And he was a French guy that practiced something called Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurvedic medicine is Indian medicine, but it's based on energy medicine. So when he mistranslated the Chinese textbooks, he actually thought that the Chinese were talking about energy. But they weren't. They were talking about blood and oxygen. When they talk about the meridians, they were talking about nervous system and blood vessels. Because with every nerve in the body, guess what goes with it? Blood vessels. So the nerve and blood vessels are always in tandem, no matter where the body is. So think about that. So what I'm saying is this. So Evan, you're saying there's no such thing as Qi, and there's no such thing as meridians. Then what the hell am I talking about? Acupuncture is nothing but neurovascular medicine. That's it. Neuro means nervous system, vascular means circulation. That's all it is. And as physical therapists, all we do is neurovascular medicine. So my perspective of physical therapy, massage, acupuncture, as well as chiropractic, it's all neurovascular medicine. That's all it is. And how do we light up the brain? Through what mechanism? Proprioception. So through proprioception, through exercise, through chiropractic or massage or acupuncture, we light up the brain centers. That's all we're doing in PT. Everything we do is neural-based. That's all we're doing in acupuncture too. Any questions before we go any further? Is that interesting so far? Who's falling asleep?
Very interesting.
Okay, good. Now, any questions before we go any further? Because I want to go back to the reptilian brain again. And I want to talk about the three other brains we have. So we get the head brain. Guess what the second brain is?
Our heart brain.
Did you know the heart energetic field is about 10 times the size of the brain? It's massive. And there's more neurons in the heart than there is in the whole entire nervous system. How crazy is that? Now, more importantly, I'm going to give you an analogy. Hopefully my daughter's not watching, and hopefully you guys don't mind bad language. Jolene, if you're watching, cover your ears. So say, okay, I'm going to use a bad word. You guys okay with it? I'm sure you've heard bad words before. Say, a douchebag walks into a room. Okay? And you get a sense from them, you're like, I don't really like that person. You never spoke to them. You just get this vibe, right? You just get the vibe, you're like, you know, this doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right about this person. That's your heart talking. That's the energetic field of your heart. Because it could be all the way down there, 100 feet away, right? The brain's energetic field is just here. The heart's field could go as far as and be over there. So we have these sensations all based on the nervous system. It's not like this energy hocus pocus stuff. This is real neurology. And we can sense other people around us that are either making us feel good or feel bad. Right? I know with Patty Pants, you're a landlord. Right? You just know when she's around. Yeah. So that's really important. So we have three brains. We got the head brain and we got the heart brain. The heart brain is involved with oh, guess what else? The heart. The heart is the first organ system that needs food first. It is such a selfish freaking organ. It needs food first. Because you're only pronounced dead when your heart stops. Right? So the heart is the most metabolically active organ in the body. Alright? So guess what mineral is the most important heart mineral? Oh, I promised my wife we were going to talk about iron tonight. But I might talk about iron since you brought it up. Because iron metabolism is very, very challenging to understand, and it's based on mythology. Okay? But we'll go into that, maybe. I promised my wife we're going to talk about it. Because it's really confusing. But maybe we will. Okay, so what's the number one mineral?
It'll be your fault. You'll be in trouble.
Who thinks it's calcium? Good, happy nobody said calcium. Calcium is the worst mineral for the heart. Who's ever heard of calcification? Guess what arteriosclerosis is? Calcification. Excess calcium. Now I'm going to sound like a heretic. Wait, you're saying don't take calcium supplements? Yes, I'm saying don't take.
Bones, isn't it calcium?
It's not.
No?
No. 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 And let me tell you why. The same mineral that's the most important mineral for the heart makes up 50% of your bone structure. And that mineral is called magnesium. So calcium causes muscles to contract. Magnesium causes muscles to relax. So think about this. Who here gets muscle spasms? Every single person in this room, right? Or joint pain. Whatever the label is. Guess what magnesium does? It causes a muscle to relax. But guess what happens to the calcifications? Now calcifications could occur in a joint, causing arthritis. It could be caused in a kidney, causing kidney stones. Gallbladder causing gallstones. On the teeth, causing plaque. In a vessel, causing arteriosclerosis, right? So when we have high amounts of calcium, and now we have magnesium, guess what happens to the vessels in the body? They close. Remember we talked about circulation? And all healing occurs through circulation. If a vessel's doing this, and a muscle's doing this, guess what's not getting into the muscle or joint? We're going to take a moment and digest that.
So if you have osteoporosis, they tell you to take calcium.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And they're wrong. Because, who's ever wrote on a chalkboard before? Guess what that chalk was called? Calcium carbonate. And it's pure calcium. What happens if I drop the calcium from this height? So if we were all calcium in our bones, we'd shatter. So we need other minerals in the bone, specifically magnesium and boron, to be able to make sure the bones are stable and strong. There's this delicate balance in minerals. Is this stuff interesting to you? Because I can go deeper into this. Okay. I promised my wife I wouldn't go here, but we're going here. All right.
It's Maria's fault.
All right. So
He wants help.
I'm about. Hopefully I don't get yelled at by anybody that I know, especially my wife. Love you, baby. But there's no such thing as pathology. there's only adaptive physiology and metabolic dysfunction inside the body. All right, let's talk about metabolic dysfunction and what that means. Who thinks they have slow metabolism in here? Everybody in this room raised their hands, right? Or at least they thought about it. All right, so there's certain minerals in our bodies that set the pace for our metabolism. And if these minerals are dysfunctional, guess what's happening to our metabolism? It's not working well. And there's 4 primary minerals that we often look at. All right, we're ready for this? All right, Brent, we're going to be changing the angle. I'm going to be writing up here. I don't think you can see me. Now, part of my handwriting, because after studying 8+ years in medicine, my handwriting is going to be horrible. So, let's look at calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. These are the 4 primary core electrolytes. Need me to turn it? Can you see? All right, so we do something in our clinic in our Chinese medical office. We do a biopsy of your hair, and we send your hair out to a lab. And with that, we look at mineral status. And in the mineral status, we're looking at to see if you have toxic heavy metals. So aluminum is normally something we see very, very high. Aluminum is found in deodorant, pots and pans, and a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. All right? And mercury. So mercury is found in napkins in the mouth, right? But these heavy metals can interfere with mineral metabolism. So we look at that. We also look at ratios. So say, for example, this is a very common pattern I see in the clinic. Now I'm going to use this as a basis to what we'll be talking about. And I'm going to relate this back to everybody's pain in the room. Then I'm going to relate this back to the reptilian brain. Then I'm going to relate this back to the third brain we're talking about, which is the digestive system. And everybody, by the time you leave, in 22 minutes, you can be masters of this stuff. Who's on board? Who's with me? Who's coming with me? Woo! Who's coming with me? Jerry McGuire. Anyone? Alright, so when calcium goes up, all right, writing, magnesium drops. So it has an inverse relationship. They balance each other. When magnesium goes up, magnesium drops, guess what sodium does? Typically rises. When sodium rises, potassium drops. So who here has retention of water in the body? Every woman in the world has, like my mother, as a kid, now I get it, because now at 42, going to be 43, I understand this whole entire, I wake up, my joints feel like a puppy, That's a metabolism issue of sodium and magnesium. Because if magnesium drops, sodium rises. And guess what is sodium as it pertains to a stress hormone? It is one of the primary minerals that help regulate stress inside the body. In fact, magnesium and sodium ratios assess adrenal function inside the body. So when we have high amounts of magnesium and low amounts of sodium, we're going to be more fatigued. We're going to have less energy. Okay? So these ratios are very delicate. Now, if I have high calcium, which almost everybody in this room is probably taking a calcium supplement to treat their joint pain or their osteoporosis or whatever. If you're not, I love you already. But 80-90% of my patients that come in, they're on calcium. So if I take calcium, it's going to cause calcium to rise. But what happens to magnesium? It goes down. And what's the number one mineral that relaxes muscles? Magnesium. Now, if magnesium drops, what's happening to sodium? Up. What's happening to water retention? Up. Yes. However, this is where the art meets the science. Say I give too much magnesium. What happens to sodium? It drops. Potassium goes up a little bit. And then we're sleeping all the time. And you see, you need to have the delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. Yeah. So this is pure metabolism. Okay? Now, what's fascinating is this. Who's on vitamin D in this room? Vitamin D. D. Vitamin D. All right. So guess what vitamin D does?
Free to ask. Yeah, so am I.
Vitamin D
Reduces magnesium.
raises calcium even more. They're typically put together. Yeah. But vitamin D is going to cause more joint pain than you can ever imagine. Now, this is heresy. And you go back to your physicians today, and they're going to be like, that's hogwash. That is BS. But there is a surmounting evidence that's showing that if you supply somebody with magnesium, guess what happens to vitamin D levels? They normalize in the body. So it's actually really a magnesium deficiency when somebody has low vitamin D. Yeah.
How much magnesium do they give?
5 milligrams per 1 pound body weight. So if you weigh 100 pounds, weight loss. That's my whole entire weight loss program. Fill you up with supplements and lose weight. All right, so there's. I'll write it down. It's 5 milligrams per 1 pound body weight.
Oh my goodness. See what I mean?
But you feel great. But it's very important for you to know that you just got to be mindful and careful that if you're taking increased magnesium, it's going to lower your sodium status. So getting a hair tissue test is extremely important because we need to be able to balance that and regulate it. If you're interested, okay? Very, very important. Now, let's talk about something else. Since we're talking about this whole entire, I love talking about mythology, right? So we're going to be talking about vitamin D mythology now too. But then I'm going to also report it back to, related back to iron. I'm sorry, iron metabolism. I'm sorry. All right, so iron metabolism. Who's ever been told they're low in iron? Okay, you get infusions. Sometimes. Okay. So anemia just means not in blood. That's what anemia means. So iron not in blood. So let's just start with foundations of the 2 different types, so 3 different types, but 2 different types of iron. Okay? Alright, so more importantly, where iron is being stored and unstored. Alright, so we have iron and iron. Iron in blood serum is called ferritin. So when you get your blood drawn, that's when you look at your iron levels. But that's only 5% of all the iron inside the body. So the next question should be, where's the other 95%? In tissues. So this is blood, this is tissues, and this is 95% of it. So if I have low iron in my blood, can I have high iron in my tissues? Huh. Did you guys know that in a tumor, there's 5 times more iron in a tumor or a cancer cell than a regular healthy cell? Wait, are you saying that there's more iron in digestive issues and leaky gut syndrome than in normal healthy gut? Wait, are you saying that the more iron I have, the more risk of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, and dying prematurely? Yes. Who's ever heard of oxidative stress? Who's ever heard of stress? All right. Brent, can I borrow your body?
Yes, sir.
All right. We're gonna do an example. Come on up here. This is one of my best friends, Brent. He has the greatest hair ever. All right, Brent. I'm just jealous. I don't have you. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hold your hands. Okay? And now try to move me away.
This way?
Yeah.
Not that it's
Hey, move away. Come on, move away.
not that strong.
Okay. All right, so dancing. So what this is I'm stuck inside the cell. Angel, can I borrow you? Or Dr. Greg, can I borrow you? I'm going to borrow Dr. Greg. Dr. Greg, one over. Now, Greg, what you're going to do is we're dancing here. I'm iron stuck inside a cell. What I want you to do is I want you to be the mineral. Okay? Okay, can you take your shirt off? I'm just kidding. Can you behave like a copper and come in between your arms and separate us? So, come between your arms and separate us. Which is the problem? Okay, alright. I think you guys, that's exactly what happens. You guys are good. Thank you so much. Alright, so let me show you what just happened. Because this is what happens in metabolism. Iron metabolism is extremely complicated. And I like giving examples and demonstrations so you can see what has to happen. There's 3 minerals we're always going to be mindful of. The 3 minerals are copper, iron, and magnesium. Oh my gosh, my wife is going to kill me. She told me not to go here. Alright, copper, iron, magnesium. We already discussed magnesium, the importance of it. Right? And we discussed serum iron versus tissue iron. Now, there's not a good way to test tissue iron. You can either do a needle biopsy, which really, really hurts, or you get a T2 MRI, which is very expensive. There's not good tests. There's no good tests for testing iron in tissue. There's a ceruloplasmin test that you can do with blood work. I don't do that because I'm not a medical doctor. But the ceruloplasmin is actually a protein that binds to copper. It allows copper to use what it needs to do, or do what it's supposed to do appropriately. Okay? Now, we have 3 minerals here. We got magnesium, copper, and we have iron. So what did you see before? When I was dancing with Brent, and then copper came over, and then what did copper do? It separated. What copper does inside the body, bioavailable copper, it tells iron to chill out. Back up, mofo. It's like, listen, dude, you're overstaying your welcome. Because when iron stays in tissues for a long period of time, who's ever heard of iron plus oxygen? All right, another example of this is if I'm a hammer, and I bring myself outside for 2 weeks and leave myself outside for a couple of weeks, what's going to happen to the hammer? It's going to rust. Iron plus an oxygen-rich environment causes rust. And inside the cell, it's called oxidative stress. It's also known as lipid peroxidation. That causes the aging process. Another fun fact, a red blood cell is supposed to last or live 120 days. Who's ever heard of that? So every 120 days, we're a new body. We have new red blood cells every 120 days. So guess what happens when we don't have enough copper and enough oxygen? The life of the cell decreases by 80%. Wait, what? 80%. If you did the math really quickly, it lasts 20 days. So the cell will last 20 days. And then we're making very, very weak cells. So I'm going to paint a picture for you. So we have electrons. All right? Now this is really, really deep. Just hang with me. We got electrons. A group of electrons together create molecules. A group of molecules together create a cell. But what's inside the cell is called DNA. A group of cells together create tissues. And a group of tissues together create organs. And a group of organs together create organ systems. Like the nervous system, the musculoskeletal system, the gynecological system, the cardiovascular system. Everything starts from what? It starts from an electron. Then it builds towards a molecule. If we have a challenge with our electron transport system, the body breaks down. So guess what controls our electrons? Who's ever looked in the mirror and said, oh my gosh, I can't stand how I look? Or I had a negative thought or stinking thinking, right? That actually causes the cell to vibrate at a very different frequency than waking up every morning being, gosh, my life is freaking incredible. Right? So it's called psychoimmunology. So our thoughts actually set our immune system. So we can actually drive ourselves sick. Okay? Right? But electrons are also governed by these stinking minerals. Alright? So iron plus oxygen causes rust. Alright, so now, ready? Who's with me? Who's with me? Are we getting excited? You only got 8 minutes left. Alright. So this is a cell. So, can you see? So, alright, here we go. I got different colors. This will be exciting. Alright. Here we go. So here's a premature cell, like a young baby cell. Here's a mature cell. So in order for a cell to be, so pretend this is inside the bone marrow. Alright? So in order for a cell to be made and progress from a premature cell to an adult cell, we need to have, oh my gosh, this is right-handed, iron. Very important. And then say copper is out here. It's not really how it works, but just imagine copper being out there. So we have copper and iron. So the first, say, half, I'm probably off on my numbers, but the first half of the cell maturation, we need iron. Extremely important for us. But the second half, we need iron to leave the tissue and copper to come in. Oh my gosh, it's really bad. And copper to come in to have a mature cell. What was that?
I have a grandson that died from Maker's disease, and it had something to do with the copper in his system.
That's interesting. Yeah. Huh. So if copper doesn't come in and tell iron to leave, we can't produce a healthy cell. And this only happens is, who's ever heard of glutathione? Glutathione is the most, it's not the most, it's one of the most powerful antioxidants in our bodies. Okay? But there's an enzyme that's even more powerful than that of glutathione. And it's called Foxy Lady. I call it Foxy Lady, but it's called ferrous oxidase, or ferrooxidase. And Fox tells copper to function, tells copper to be a good boy, and then copper tells iron to be a good boy. So there's no such thing as anemia, it's just metabolic dysfunction. And what controls Foxy Lady? Vitamin A. Specifically retinol. And retinol comes from liver of organs. So remember cod liver oil? Some of you that are over the age of 50 or 60 in this room, you probably grew up with cod liver, your parents probably had cod liver. It was because our ancestors, ancestral, that's what we ate. We ate the organ meats. We didn't care about the flesh. The flesh we fed to the dogs. The organ meats, that's where all the nutrients were. Cod liver oil. Yeah. So cod liver oil, eating liver, right? I recommend liver pills because I always get nauseous when I have liver. So I say, you know what, you can either eat liver or eat liver pills. I go with the liver pills. But that's why I recommend liver pills. Because the vitamin A has to come from an organ, it can't come from a vegetarian source. Because beta carotene, which is vitamin A, goes through 12 conversions to become retinol. Which means that it uses a lot of energy to become retinol. So like sweet potatoes have the highest amount of beta carotene than any other vegetable, but it has to still go through 12 processes to become retinol. And who knew that there's 8 times more retinol in the eyes than any place else in the body? I think it's because, guess what today, who was completely covered, right, because it's cold out. But what do we see? What's that yellow, red thing in the sky? Guess where we get our vitamin D from? Guess what receptors we have? Guess why we have 8 times more retinol in our eyes? And why would somebody in Florida be vitamin D deficient? Doesn't make any sense.
Stay in the air conditioner.
But all you need to do is be outside for 10 or 15 minutes to get your supply of vitamin D for the day. Think about that. Or even in California, the warmer climates, they're out a lot. Why would they have vitamin D deficiency? It's actually vitamin A deficiency. Because in nature, say liver for example, vitamin A and vitamin D are in a 10-to-1 ratio. There's 10 times more vitamin A than vitamin D when it's in nature. So when we take our vitamin D supplements, or hormone D supplements, guess what happens at a 10-to-1 ratio? It becomes more like a 1-to-1, or a 10-to-1 in the opposite direction. So what I'm saying is this, when we have our vitamin D supplements, guess what happens to vitamin A? It tanks. So if we take a vitamin D supplement, it's going to cause vitamin A to drop. You're not going to be able to produce that enzyme called ferrous oxidase, which is not going to tell copper to do its job, and it's not going to tell iron to do its job. So then we become more anemic. I think we need to, everybody, the whole entire medical establishment, I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, but we need to take a step back and think logically. If we know the biochemistry, we should be able to figure this stuff out. I'm taking stuff that I learned in physical therapy school, which was pre-med, right? And I'm applying principles and concepts into today's society. This is all found in the literature. This is not my information. I mean, I got this from my teachers. This is nothing new. It's been around for a very long time, at least 50 years, that they know about this iron metabolism. Aren't you glad you brought up iron?
Yes. His wife won't be glad.
I know. Did I explain that well enough for you guys to understand that? Because it's very, very complicated. When I read the literature, it's very difficult for me to track in the literature. So I'm always thinking about how, because I'm not a researcher, I'm a clinician. So I want to be able to take the information I'm learning in literature and bring it back and present it in such a way that makes sense to my audience.
We found some of these vitamins that'll be accurate. I'm
It'd be-
forward to setting
Well, anybody can start taking the cod liver today. You can start eating liver today. Cod liver, oil, liver pills, or e-liver. I would start with that. Most likely it's going to help out most of your pain just by doing that alone.
Where can you get cow liver? Oil?
I have it next door. I have it here.
Really?
Yeah, we sell it here. We sell tons of it here.
Oh.
Yeah. And the second thing I would suggest, at least getting your hair tissue tested to see what your mineral status is.
Is that covered by insurance?
It depends. It's not going to wear insurance. However, what I do when you say you paid for cash to come to see me, I include it in that first visit. So I don't charge on top of it. Okay?
We used to check that on these fish appearance and stuff.
Yeah?
Just,
Yeah, but I know.
yeah.
Yeah? 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 Yeah.
And we were healthy.
I missed it, so there's the reason right
You're in
there.
trouble right there.
Any questions? I know there's probably a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions. You know, schedule a free visit with me. You know, we can talk about this stuff. I'm here to help. And if you're interested, I can see his patients. If not, we just have a conversation. If you're interested in just doing a hair test, just a hair test alone is $80. That's it. My teachers charge $250. I'm charging basically what the cost is of the hair test, not the cost of me interpreting the information. You know, so I'll interpret it for free pretty much for everybody. All right. So let's wrap it up. Let me link the third brain to the reptilian brain and link it all together now. Okay. Alright. You ready? So we have the third brain is the gut brain. Okay. And guess what? The gut brain actually has more neurons than the heart brain.
I
Remember
thought the heart rate was the third one.
heart brain would be so head, so 1, 2, 3. Just in that order. Sorry. So the gut brain has it's its own nervous system. So there's a nerve that communicates the reptilian brain to the gut. Now, say we ate something that was inflammatory to our body, or say we have too much iron stored in our gut. Okay? What do you think the response from the gut to the brain is going to be? Do you think it's going to be a negative response or a positive response? Negative response. So if somebody stabs me in the gut, right, I'm going to be like, holy crap, there's a knife in my gut, right? And it's going to send an impulse to the brain. So if I have an inflammation in the gut because maybe I ate something that was inflammatory, or I had iron toxicity that's stored in my gut, or I don't have enough good bacteria in my gut to offset the bad bacteria, right? An impulse goes to the brain. Guess what? Where all the blood flow goes? Do you think it goes to our rational mind centers, the frontal lobe? It goes to the reptilian brain. So then we get dumber. Okay? And then when this gets inflamed, guess what happens to all the joints and muscles and organs in the body? It gets inflamed. Because whatever happens in the small intestine, it actually passes through the gut and it goes into the whole entire body. Correct. Correct. Yeah. And so this gut-brain connection, as it pertains to chronic pain, they both exist together. So if I have an inflammatory or inflammation from an iron toxicity or copper deficiency or magnesium deficiency, combine that with a food that I'm allergic to, I could actually be causing severe inflammation to every joint in the body. Hello. Chronic osteoarthritis. Right. What they're saying now is that osteoarthritis is actually considered an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune diseases are anything where the body attacks itself. So cardiovascular disease is now considered autoimmune. The early stages of cancers are now considered autoimmune. Then we have our traditional autoimmune diseases like MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, right? Type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is now considered to be an autoimmune. There's over 300 diseases that fall into this autoimmune category. That's caused by one thing. That's called leaky gut syndrome. That's when food particles leave our gut into the bloodstream, the body sees it as a foreign invader. And guess what, guys? Guess what little critters love iron? Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, yeast. They love iron. They feed on an iron buffet. So if we're sick or we have chronic colds or flus, chances are you have significant iron toxicity, not iron anemia. Just the opposite from what allopathic medicine is talking about, but in natural medicine we see a lot different. And if you propose this information to a Western medical doctor, he's going to think I'm crazy. Even if I supported it with 100 journal review articles, he would still call me crazy. I'm okay with that. Because I may be crazy, but I'm not stupid. Okay, any questions?
I don't. Maybe
You go, honestly.
No, how do we incorporate this, and remember and do these right things so
There's two ways. There's a couple different ways. Come to my talks every month.
Oh, you have talks every month?
This is done every single month.
Oh,
My eventual goal is to have 1,500 people at these presentations. It's my gift to the community. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to educate you so that you take this information, do whatever you want with it. When I first learned about this, my head blew off. I was like, wait. Just have to give somebody vitamin A, balance their magnesium and copper levels, and they get better. It's really quite simple. And then heal the gut.
I've been told I don't absorb vitamins, I have gastric bypass.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why every once in a while, I'm not anemic all the time, just sometimes. They check me regularly
Yeah.
because it will drop.
Yeah.
If that's true, then how can even taking the magnesium help?
Well, you're going to take bioavailable magnesium. So what does that mean? Magnesium that's digestible. So the magnesium oxides are not digestible.
Okay.
Magnesium citrate, it's digestible, it's bioavailable, but it's going to irritate your gut. So you want to take a magnesium like magnesium malate, magnesium aspartate, or ionic magnesium.
Easy for him. Take notes. Take notes.
I have it next door.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, I have everything you need. The supplements I recommend are easily digestible. Okay. I'm in the process of creating my own digestive formula that has the minerals inside there in an ionic form, so it doesn't have to go through the digestive system. It gets absorbed before it even touches the stomach. Yeah. Sorry.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you just said. I actually have similar gastroparesis. So for that reason also, like I don't absorb. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. But for that reason, I've had some iron fusions, and sometimes I'm great, but sometimes I have, my iron stores. I have my hematologist has called me like homeless, where I have nothing, or my B12 is nothing. So they recommended the liquid vitamins in that way because they say they absorb better. So that may be something I can talk to you about. Because it's just sometimes I'm feeling great, sometimes I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So I don't know what.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah.
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 Me too.
Yeah. We'll all have a go. Everybody at Cambridge Tank gets a free massage too. So, not tonight, but Jojo, raise your hand. Fantastic, Jojo. Just speak to Jojo so she gets all your information. You get a free massage. And next time we do this, bring more friends. The more friends you bring, the more we bring a massive amount of people that are like-minded, that we just grow together, and you get free massages for bringing somebody.
I have a question. You said magnesium raised the the calcium. What happened when you put it salt and you water? We have this water softener in the place and it's salt. I mean, it's salt.
Slippery, so.
Can't
Slippery
get the
soft.
soap out of your hair.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. For
Yeah.
an hour after.
Yeah, we actually moved to a whole house filtration system. That's what we did because in the water itself, I'm not a zealot, like I cheat. It's not like I'm still human, right? So I don't want you guys to think I'm like this perfect species, human being. Not perfect.
Now you tell us.
So, and for all my patients, I plan cheat meals. So I want people to cheat, okay? Now, but in my household, the water system is typically very, very toxic. Not to mention the chloride that's in the water, and the fluoride that's in the water, but we also have these heavy metals that's in the water too, okay? Heavy metal.
I drink distilled water for years.
Yeah, so distilled water for years, it's going to steal the minerals out of your body. So I would
20
recommend.
years I've been drinking it.
Yeah,
It's all I drink, distilled water.
yeah. So if you're going to drink water from a bottle, you want to go with artesian water, like Evian, Fiji, Voss. That'll be those are the waters I'd highly recommend drinking. Yeah.
Where can you get Voss water? They had it at ShopRite, but they don't carry it.
It should be there, no?
They don't.
They don't have it there anymore?
stopped. They told me.
Do you carry it at your shop, right? Voss?
No,
Amazon.
no.
Amazon. But you got to pay for all the shipping cost.
Not if you're Prime.
That's right. I prefer well water over. You just got to be careful of old pipes. It might be lead pipes. That's the only concern I have. We still have high manganese. When I did my hair test, my whole family had high manganese. And I think it's in our water system. Yeah. Yeah, there's good, better, best situations. I mean, we can't create a perfect environment. There's no way we can. But at least we could create an environment that allows us to be successful. You know, that's why I recommend cheat meals for patients, because I want them to live. I want them to enjoy themselves. If we could be 80% of the time being as clean as possible, I think that's the best way to live. I go a little bit more extreme because I get sick when I have too much bread. If I have bread 2 days in a row, I get a sore throat. I'm sick for a week. So I'll have pizza every quarter. That's my present for myself. That's my cheat. Yeah. But I'll cheat once a week with fast food, not fast foods, but like tonight we had Penang, which is Gao, which is Thai food. So it's not fast food, but it's I eat out a couple times a week. But in my house, everything's organic. Everything's is very clean.
Sound like my son-in-law, he's a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah, the cleanest stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
No.
I appreciate everybody being here.
oh, it's very interesting.
Oh, we appreciate sitting here.
Learned a lot.
And this is not what I wanted to discuss tonight, but we went down the rabbit hole of that I'm happy we did. And hopefully leave here more confused. And ask you more
That
questions.
doesn't take a whole lot.
And speak to JoJo, schedule your free massage, schedule your free wellness visit if you want to come in to see me. And we'll just have a conversation if you want. And next time, yes, Dad? Oh, that's my father.
When's your next,
Say hi, Father Ed. The next presentation is the last Thursday of each month. This is going to be ongoing, so we're going to continue doing this. Whatever the last Thursday of March is. That'll be it. And bring your friends. Let's make this fun. Okay? And interactive.
It's very interesting.
Brent wants me to say bye to everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I didn't use my PowerPoints at all. You did so good, Dr. Greg.